Welcome and thanks for joining us. My guest today is Tom Krapser, the Vice President of Lifecycle Services at Red River. Tom, great to have you in here.
Good morning, great to be here.
Yeah, and so we know the federal government has longstanding challenges with modernizing, managing really a vast infrastructure of software, and it's only becoming more important. What are some of the typical software management challenges that face federal agencies today?
Yeah, most agencies struggle with just inconsistent coverage or contracts. So they'll have proliferation of contracts just as driven by the procurement cycles or just over time and new initiatives. So that will be one struggle. They'll have just a lot of different contracts. They'll also have inconsistent coverage models. So in other words, they may not have a consistent service level across an organization or the appropriate service level. There's also, it's pretty common to see either underutilization or over provisioning, which can happen from just organizational change or maybe some application or scope shift in a project. So it can lead to just some bloat within the organization. And with that, just having either an inconsistent view or incomplete data sets, you may be at risk of compliance risk or security risk. So those are common things we see with most customers.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think the federal government is so big, and each agency really has its own sub components within them. You mentioned, how just the kind of fragmented approach that has resulted not of anyone's single doing, but just as a result of different initiatives and inconsistent approaches across different components. How do you think agencies can take a more unified approach, and why is that important going forward?
Yeah, it's really important, especially for just operational execution and also for budgeting, meeting their budgeting goals.
Yeah.
So, looking at doing consolidations or larger enterprise agreements where they'll have more visibility across the agency, that would help them better plan for cost and spend. Additionally, really help to make sure they're leveraging those financial commitments that they've made towards technology modernization. And as things change, provide some visibility and flexibility into that.
The last piece you mentioned, leveraging the financial investments they've already made to the best approach, maximum extent possible. Talk a little bit more about that. What does that mean, and how can agencies get after that?
Yeah, sure. A couple things. So one would just be certain softwares, there may be features that are not being used. So as we align with the customer to help them understand how are they leveraging technology towards our agency mission, or directives or initiatives, and potentially there's features that are available that are not being used or underutilized that could help them accomplish that. So, and then potentially, they could be looking elsewhere to try to achieve one of those outcomes that they already have in a feature set. Or as new features become available over time, are they looking back, and how do they recognize that so they can maximize the benefits that they are entitled to? And these are things that are done in point in time, and then over 3 or 5 years, the customer changes, the platform may change, the software, the entitlements could change. So staying current with that is critical to make sure they're maximizing.
That makes sense, because I think whenever a new kind of need pops up or a new situation pops up, we see agencies kind of jump on that as like, oh, we have to do a new thing, but maybe you already have the thing that you need right available. Yeah. And you talked about this enterprise approach and why it's important. And can you expand on that? How can agencies kind of take more of an enterprise approach to software, and what does that mean?
Yeah. So at Red River, we call it Enterprise Lifecycle Management, or ELM affectionately. And that's really a methodology which provides a framework for repeatable processes. So it really starts with aligning with the customer, again, to look at their mission goals. There could be current mandates or initiatives, directives that they need to align to. And then using technology, software platforms, how can we partner with them to achieve those goals? And So first, it starts with understanding what they're trying to accomplish and how they're supporting that, and then with that, we would start to look at, okay, some of the basics of it are getting that consistent or one inventory of either licenses or hardware, the environment itself, the install base itself. From that, we can start to look at just predictable spend or cost. What's it going to cost to keep that in place or to maintain it? And then additionally from there, we can look at the life cycle of the products that are in that to see and forecast future additional spend, so maybe future capital purchases. And then again, the recurring costs of the maintenance or the commitment they've already made. And we align that and with that view of the organizational goals with what they have in their install base and the technologies that are available, and start to align with them on the technology roadmaps. So, in other words, we want to say, okay, this is what you have today, where are we going, and what do we need to get there? There could be additional licenses, it could be more training or enablement for their workforce, to just support them, throughout that.
Why do you think agencies struggle with software specifically and kind of that enterprise long-term approach? I mean, we know they're good at putting out technology roadmaps, as you mentioned. They're good at, they have processes for financial management, program planning that stretch out for many years. But where are the gaps with software that you often find?
Yeah, there's a couple that come to mind. So one would just be the speed of innovation and development. So software can be updated, new features or things can be developed. With security, there's always something new around the corner that people will be looking for. So we have to identify those and make sure that people are ready for that. There's also a lot of turnover in any customer. There's going to be turnover in the workforce. So on parts of that, it's training and retraining people. There's also from an agency as an employer viewpoint, we want to make sure that we're helping them, train their people, make an attractive place for people, especially we're talking about technology. We want people to be, to want to be challenged with that and innovative. So provide a platform for them to learn. And it's a competitive landscape, so other large organizations will be providing that to potential employees. So we want to help our customers offer the same benefits.
Yeah, the DoD Fix Our Computers saga comes to mind from a few years ago.
Yeah.
Obviously, folks want to have the latest and greatest technology to do their jobs.
Yeah.
Obviously, efficiency is the coin of the realm under this administration. We've talked a lot about procurement, and you talked about inventorying software licenses and getting like a holistic kind of view of what software infrastructure is in place. So how does consolidation and efficiency come into play for software that agencies use?
Yeah, a few ways. Yeah. I love that question. So first, from just a consolidated view, the sheer number of contracts that can be out there or agreements, software agreements, it's difficult to manage from a day-to-day standpoint. You have different period of performances, you have different service levels. So there's a lot of effort just to maintain those types of things, which is taking the agency away from their mission and focus. So being able to consolidate, give them, help them focus more on what their agency is supposed to be doing versus the technology that supports them. So that would be one. I would say also just the being able to see your full install base allows you to understand kind of what is being used and where the funding, what's important to the agency. In other words, they're not spending money on things that they don't really need. Additionally, making sure that when they are a heavy consumer of a certain software, do they have the right software, the right service levels? Do they have the right training? Things like that. And then with that as well, again, the forecasting. So mission critical software or platforms, making sure that there's predictability to what is that going to cost each year, or if they end up adopting more, right? And again, we're talking about software companies or large OEMs. A lot of times they will be adding new product areas. How can they incorporate that into what they already have? There are also acquisition machines. So sometimes you'll have two large platforms within a customer, and one company buys another company. How does that integrate? How can we make that better for the customer? They should, it's a good thing that those acquisitions happen. Our customers should feel the same way, right? So again, aligning all those different platforms and to provide the visibility, the control, the flexibility, and the predictability.
Makes sense. And so we've been talking generalities about how federal agencies have struggled with software management challenges. Are there any success stories with some of the approaches that you've laid out that come to mind?
Yeah, sure. A couple that come to mind. There's a large federal, I'd say, rural and agricultural policy agency had a few different large software agreements that we consolidated. It was all with one OEM and consolidated those contracts into one buying vehicle. That provide them scale and discount from just leveraging their buying power there. But also, again, all the things we've been talking about, from the efficiencies and the visibility and flexibility, came with that. And in their first year of the contract, they saved over $8 million. And by the end of that term of the contract, they have about over $20 million in cost avoidance, if you will. If you took a business as usual versus the enterprise model. So that would be one that comes to mind. Another large federal benefits organization. We worked with them. Again, they already had a significant contract in place, but as their investment in that technology grew, we worked with them to, again, bring multiple contracts that they had, multiple period of performance together, ease the administrative burden for them, provide the visibility, leverage some buying power, and also we're able to build some hardware discounts in addition to the software discounts as well. In the first year of that contract, we saw, and the goal of the contract when we started this was about a 15% savings. And in the first year, we provided just under 20, it was 19% or something. And then in the second year, it was closer to 20% savings. So that's still in place today. But immediate gains there from a cost savings, which is not the only goal of a large enterprise agreement, but certainly the one the customers want to start with.
Sure. Yeah. I think that's always a top of mind for agencies. And of course, everyone's talking about how artificial intelligence can be applied to administrative burden and to ease things like that. I think we've seen some agencies start to look at how AI and automation could be used as part of the ATO process, for instance, with software. Yeah. How are you seeing AI enter this conversation around software management, and where can it be applied, do you think?
Yeah, it's a great question. So as we talk about setting up these contracts and to provide that visibility and aligning with the customer, building technology roadmaps, cybersecurity and AI are definitely going to be part of every technology roadmap. And that could start with just readiness from the infrastructure or the software themselves, and then to the customer mission or what they're trying to accomplish with that, with either cybersecurity goals or AI to either enhance an end user customer experience to an employee experience, whoever that is. So those are every contract. We're talking about that.
Yeah, and I think the compliance challenges around cybersecurity can become just such a huge issue that the federal government seems to perennially be trying to address in one form or another, and it seems like it seesaws back and forth with every new cyber incident. But it's interesting to watch how they try to ensure that they're secure without overburdening the process.
Yeah.
All right. Any final recommendations, any final thoughts just on this big software management challenge that the federal government faces?
Yeah, I think just to reiterate, the intent is certainly cost savings, but the visibility, flexibility, and control for the customer that they gain and will help them move forward and modernize, again, to meet their mission more completely. That's the essence of ELM and our lifecycle software management.
Okay. All right. Well, again, I'd like to thank today's guest, Tom Krapser. He's the Vice President of Lifecycle Services at Red River. Tom, thanks again.
Thank you.
All right. I'm Justin Doubleday. You've been watching the series Top Voices with Red River. For more on this discussion, visit federalnewsnetwork.com and search Red River.